You have a good job. You have good credit. Why have you not purchased a house yet? Drives me absolutely crazy. My name is Chatto, and I've been a landlord for over 25 years and wanted to have a quick chat with Chatto about getting over the hump and purchasing your first property. Not even your first investment property, your first house, right? Like that's the first thing, is to buy a house, whether or not it's a rental. That being said, there's a friend of mine that I've known for quite some time, and for the past over 2 years, he has been talking about buying property. He has a good W-2 paying, high paying job. He has good credit. And after 2 years, he just renewed his lease on an apartment that he's paying $2,400 a month to live by himself. It doesn't make any sense to me. So with that being said, I wanted to address some of the fears that you might have in actually getting ownership of your first house. So I'm going to go over the five biggest excuses not to buy a house, and hopefully kind of combat them and help you get past that and start really making it happen. So first one is, I cannot afford the 20% down payment. A lot of people think of a traditional loan, you need 20% down payment. A house is going to cost me $250,000. That's $50,000 down. I can't afford that. So number one, there's a couple things to think about here. Number one, you can go out and get what's called an FHA loan, which is only 3% down for a property that you are going to live in. Again, the point is to get your first house. That being said, there's actually a 3% conventional loan down, and both of those are options. Now, I presented that to my friend, and he's like, "Oh, well, then my payment's going to be too high," because he's financing, the entire property. I'm like, really, bro? You're paying $2,400 a month in rent. Your payment's not going to be too high. But there are ways to get around that 20% down payment. And there's actually ways to even get 0%. There's certain towns and townships and municipalities that have programs out there to help people with down payments. Whether or not you'd qualify or what their qualifications are, I don't know, but do a little research. Find out what you really need down. So that's number one. Number two, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to pay private mortgage insurance because I didn't put 20% down. Oh my gosh, the interest rates are too high. So number two is really, the terms are no good right now. And I'm like, really? Really? So like, yeah, I get 7% is high compared to what we've been used to recently. But in the scheme of things, I think people were buying houses way back when with like 19% mortgages. Here's the thing, right? If you wait for the rates to go down, the property is just going to go up in value, right? Potentially. I mean, yeah, there can be drops. We can have things happen. I get that. But the longer you wait, right, the more you're probably going to have to pay for the property. So what you think you're saving by not getting this higher interest rate, you're losing in the property going up in value, right? Like at the end of the day, it really, if the rates reset and they go back down to historic lows again, may not, who knows? I don't have a crystal ball, but if they do, you refinance, right? You refinance and you get new debt at a lower amount. It's easy, right? So that being said, you can't let the terms of the loan be what's holding you back. So don't let the down payment hold you back, and don't let the terms of the loan hold you back. Because at the end of the day, right, if you are able to get yourself into a position where your payment is reasonable, right, and most people spend more money to rent a house than they would if they purchased the house. So you have an opportunity. You have a good job. You have good job with good income and good credit. Go out and buy a house. Now, here is the third thing that he was complaining about over these last 2 years. Oh, I might be switching to another job here. I might be switching to another job there. Uncertainty in where he's going to be working. And I strongly recommend that you don't let this hold you back. I had my first rental property in Connecticut, right? And a few years later, I moved back to Pennsylvania, 3 hours away. And you know what? it was okay. I made out on that property after ownership of a couple years. And I wish I still had that property today, but unfortunately I sold it because it was too far away. But that being said, it's like, okay, if you have to move, you have to move. You don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? So why let that be something that holds you back? You don't know where you're going to be. You don't know what's going to happen. Of course you don't know. Things change. Life changes, right? But you can always, as long as when you purchase that property, it makes sense as a rental as well as a personal residence, there's something you can do with it, right? You can keep that property and have a tenant pay the mortgage for you, right? And next thing you know, in 30 years, you're retired and you own the house free and clear, right? So it's beautiful. Like just that another 2-3 years of waiting is just taking away from all that appreciation, taking away from all that mortgage pay down. So don't let things like that and uncertainty in the future hold you back. Number 4, the big excuse that he had multiple times in multiple properties that I sent his way and that other agents showed him. I'm not an agent. That agent showed him and that kind of thing. He unfortunately had an issue with almost every property. I don't like this. I don't like that. I would have to do this to be happy to. It's like, oh my gosh. So the thing I want you to keep in mind is it's more important to buy a house than to buy the perfect house. Yes, you want to have standards. You may not want a property that, I don't know. You might not want to have a property that is in a very bad neighborhood. Great. I don't blame you. You may not want a property that is, has 7-foot ceilings, right? That would stink, right? So and I've seen properties like that. So there are standards you need to have, but don't set your standards so high that you're never going to buy a house, right? So right now, and it's funny because right now, his last apartment that he was in, he didn't like for multiple reasons, right? It didn't meet his standards, but it was okay because he was renting. And now he's moved to another apartment with a new lease at another $2,400 a month. And, right, he doesn't like that one either. So, and I tell him, well, if you don't like the apartment and you don't like the other apartment, what's wrong with buying a house you don't love? Whatever, right? Because the thing is, you're not going to live there forever, right? If you wait to find your perfect house, you're not going to want to move, right? And again, part of it is just get that first house, live there for a little while, rent it out, and move into another house, buy another house that's a little better, that's maybe more closer to your perfect. Live there for a little while, move out, rent it out, get closer now in your third house to the perfect house. So eventually you're in your forever house. But you have to get that first one to get started, and it may not be perfect. The first single house that I bought when I moved back to Pennsylvania, it was not in the ideal neighborhood, right? But I'm like, I don't have kids, whatever. It needed a complete renovation. Bathrooms dated from the 50s, kitchen dated. It needed a complete renovation, which I did eventually do while living there. But again, the money I made off of holding that property for the years that I had it far exceeded the amount of money I spent on the property in repairs, right? And I would have had to pay to live somewhere to rent a property. I just paid the mortgage. So just keep all that in mind. It doesn't have to be the perfect house. And I guess the 5th reason that keeps people from buying a property is, oh my gosh, what if the market crashes again? And here's the thing. You're buying this property as something that you're going to hold on to for 25, 30 years, right? This is a asset that you are putting into your retirement that's going to give you tax benefits. It's going to give you appreciation. It's going to give you cash flow. All these things are going to come out of this property. So if the value goes down in the next, right? If you buy a house today in 2026 and the value, we have a market crash in 2027 and the value goes down by $75,000, $80,000, it'll come back, right? You just need to keep the house, right? So as long as you can continue to rent it, right? And you will put your retirement in a much better shape, even in the worst case scenario, right? And rents go down, right? So let's say the rents go down and the market value goes down, and now you're like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck with this property and I'm losing $200 a month. Well, guess what? If you're losing $200 a month times, I don't know, 12 months is $2,400 times 5 years, right? Yeah, it could be a chunk of change, right? That's like $12,000 over the course of 5 years. Did I do my math right? I don't know. I'm not going to double check it right now. But the point is, eventually it'll come back. Eventually you're going to be making 200, 300, $400 a month as rents go back up. Eventually that house that was, I'm just throwing out numbers, was worth 250, now is worth 170, is going to be worth 350, 450, right? The values will go up over that time. And it's almost like a forced savings plan, even if the market does tank. So like that's where a lot of people screw up. They see the market tank, like, oh my gosh, I got to get rid of this house. I can't continue. And I'm going to stop paying the mortgage. I'm going to destroy my credit and blah, 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 and foreclosure. Just hold the house, right? And the thing is, right, if you buy this house and you go out and you get a loan, you can afford this house, right? So there's really... right? You're locked into it for a while, right? The worst case scenario, you got to live through the downturn there, but at the end of it, it's going to be worth so much more and end up giving you so much more than if you had just rented a place. So with that being said, hope this was of value. I've been blabbering on about 11, 12 minutes about getting over the excuses to buy a house, and I just encourage you to go out. Again, if you just buy 1, 2, 3 properties that turn into rentals, and then maybe your 4th property is your forever home. Those 3 properties, when you retire in 30 years, are going to be worth at least, what, $1 million? Right? They're going to be cash flowing how much? $7,500, $10,000 a month if they're free and clear, right? There's just so many, and then the write-offs. It's just, I really encourage you, if you have a good job, if you have good credit, right, go out and buy a house. If you don't, like, start getting those things corrected so that you can buy a house, so that you can get your first property, even if it isn't exactly what you want. I strongly encourage you, go out and buy that first property. That being said, hopefully this was of value. Like and subscribe for the algorithm. I would appreciate it. Share it, right? I don't know, maybe share it. And let's have some conversation in the comments. And appreciate you guys coming out and watching another episode of Chat with Chatto. Have a good one.